Hi, this is Susan from Cochineal Design Studio, and today I'm going to share with you the process I use when I go from garment designer to my plotter. The plotter I have is made by a US cutter, and mine is a 34-inch version, although it comes in different sizes. So the 34-inch was under $500. The plotter works for both paper as well as vinyl because it's designed as a vinyl cutter. So when I'm printing patterns, I use a ballpoint pen refill and put that in place of the knife. So here you can see the plotter in my workspace. And we will begin by going into Garment Designer and going from there. So here we are in Garment Designer, and I'm going to prep my pattern to be plotted. As you can see, it's already designed, and when we go to create a plot file, basically we just want to take note of the width and the height of the pattern. So I'm going to click inside and read down here. I can see the greatest height, excluding the seam allowances, is about almost 24.5 inches almost. So I would say 25.5, counting the half-inch seam allowances, maybe 26 to be safe. And the width of this piece is 18.25. Plus another inch, 19.25, and plus another inch, so probably about 20.25 in total of the whole pattern. So these things I just note down for determining the paper size. My next step is to go set up the paper size here, and I'll move page setup here. And I want to click on the down arrow and tell it to manage custom sizes. And so I'll pick something like maybe 22 by 40 and just click OK and just confirm that it's here. Now these I set up in advance by clicking on a plus key and typing in the numbers. So you can do this easily on a Mac. On Windows you would probably want to use utilities such as Cute PDF or BullZip and create your custom paper sizes there. So I'm just going to click OK, and click OK, and you can confirm that paper size is set. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the dimensions like this and probably turn off the sloper. So I'm showing only the pattern, and I'm being warned to check angles and things, but I've done some crazy funky things in the design of this garment, so I know everything's fine for what we want to do. Okay, then we go to display to scale to actual size, and then make sure I've got a print preview already turned on so you can see that each of the pattern pieces fits into one page. And then we go on a Mac to print. And try to make my print window smaller and move it over here so you can see everything. And I'm going to tell it to save as a PDF. And then, again, I'll make this smaller so you can see everything. And I'm going to just save this file. It'll just be loose in my folder. Or I can look for plotter patterns and save it there, and just click on save. So at this point the patterns have been saved in full scale, and the next step will be to take it into the plotting software. We're now in the plotting software. I'm using SureCuts A Lot 4 Pro, which came with the plotter. And primarily I'm going to use the document functions, the layer functions, and the fill and stroke functions, as well as the selection tool and the text tool. So I'm going to go first into the document, and I want to set my document size up to agree with the size of paper that I want. So you just click here and slide to custom. I've already preset it at 24 by 50, but I can change this at any point in time. I can add more length to the paper, more width. My width is dictated by the width of paper I have in the plotter. So I've kind of custom made a piece that's a little wider than I normally use just because of this style. So I'll click OK. And then the next step is to bring in the pattern pieces. So I'm going to click on import. I'm going to get my file, which I've moved into a folder so I can keep all parts, the cutter file and the PDF in the same folder. So I'll click OK, open. And you can only bring in one pattern piece at a time. So first I'll bring in the front and click OK. And so here the front appears. And I'm going to zoom out a little so that you can see all parts of it. So it comes in grouped with all objects grouped. The larger one here was the paper size I had. So you go through a little bit of a dance. I'm going to go to Object, Ungroup. And you just keep clicking. So now I can get rid of the outer box, and then I'll click here and I can see it's still grouped. So you go Object, Ungroup again, and you click on this and delete. And as long as you see more objects, including an outer box, you know you're still grouped. Object, Ungroup, and then I can click on this one and delete. And actually this one, for whatever reason, I do twice. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see there are still a couple objects that were the corner markers from Garment Designer, which showed you the paper size that I was using. So I'm going to get rid of those. And then I'm just going to do Command A for select all. And I'm going to go to the object and I'm going to group. And this makes everything in the one group over here in the layer. I'm going to click on it. Oh, but before I do that, I want to put some titling. So I'm going to click on the text tool, click here in my pattern piece, and I'll write front and Adri. Oops. And then click away. And now I will select all and group again. Normally I do this before. And then I'll name this front group. Front pattern, and just click OK. And the layer color is red, just FYI. Okay, at this point I can hide that, and I'm going to go ahead and now do the import function again. And you get very good at this, being quick. So I want now this time to choose the second pattern piece. There's only two in this project, so that makes it simple. So this is my back, okay. And I have to remember to go back and get the selection tool, and I'll bring it on. I'm going to zoom out again. And we're going to go through the same dance. So we're going to ungroup and click on the outer one to get rid of that. We'll click on here again, ungroup. I like to do it in steps. That way I feel like I have a little more control. See, it's still another level of grouping. So just make sure it's selected, ungroup. Try again, see if you can just get the box, which I can, and there's two here at the end. But once again, I need to zoom in so I can see my little markers here that I don't want. Okay, this time we're going to be smart and put our text on before we group. So we'll get the text tool. We're going to click here and say back Adri, which was the name of the project. Okay. And now I will select all, and I'm going to go Object, Group, and this time I'm going to the layers in blue, and I'm going to click on back, click OK. So now I'll turn on both layers, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually click on my back layer, and the fast way is just to click on it. And I want to take the selection tool, click on the back layer, and pull this down, okay. We'll just scooch down. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate it. And then I can basically create what's called a marker. So I'm getting the most efficient use out of my paper. So this is good. And at this point I can save the file. Save project as. And I'll save it in the same folder. This is named Adri, by the way, because it came from a Vogue pattern that I'd had ages ago in a different size, and I just mimicked the styling of it, but the designer was Audrey. We have one last step that we need to perform before we go to the plotter. So we're going to give the plotter some information. So I'm going to close the document. I'm going to choose the fill and stroke. I need to make sure that this says pen color here, and I need to make sure that it is the color black, and also I want the opacity up, although we're not doing any fill. So, but we will do black, and you can control how thick you want the line to be, but I usually just leave it as 1. And so this is all set up, and so when we get into the final step where we're sending the plot file to the plotter, you will see this once again, that it's understood, it has black, and that's the pen color. Okay, we're now over at the plotter, and so you can see I've got my paper fed in, okay, and here's the overall display, and here's my little tool I use to cut the paper in the end. And so we're going to come over and we're going to turn the plotter on right here, and that will take a second. So you can see I'm getting a welcome sign. Okay, now I have a ball point pen refill here, and that's what makes the lines for plotting, because this plotter also works with the blade if you wanted to cut vinyl. And so what we need to do now is we need to set our starting point, because we're off the paper here. So I'm going to click on local pause. Okay, and then when it's in that mode, I'm going to move this over, and once I know I'm on the paper, as you can see here, I'm going to choose origin right here. Okay, and now it's ready to go, and so we will go over to the computer and send the plotting file now. Okay, so we're ready to plot, and at this point we click on the cutter icon, and we'll move this in, and you'll want to make sure that this is set onto pen here, and then you just click on cut. This sends the file over to the plotter. Does its own crazy kind of approach to how it chooses what lines to plot when. You can see it sends seam allowances. Now we're starting the next pattern piece. Since I spliced my paper to make it wide enough, you just have to keep an eye when it comes back and hope that it doesn't catch. At this point, it has finished plotting. It always starts and stops in the strangest of places. And I'm ready to pull my paper out. And so usually there are arms here on the back of the plotter that I can lift up like this and simply pull out the pattern, and then go to the table and cut the pieces out, and I am great. So just to recap, we built our pattern initially in Garment Designer. We took it into the plotter software and prepped it, and then we plotted it. And then I built fabric using sustainable practices with Count the Cloth and denim. I laid my pattern on top of the fabric as I was working, and the end result is this sustainable jacket all along the process with Garment Designer through plotter to final result. We hope you've enjoyed watching yet another way of outputting from software to pattern with Garment Designer. It took a long time in this video, but once you are not explaining it and you're just doing it rote, it's actually a pretty quick process. So we hope you enjoy, and please do explore our software. It's Garment Designer pattern making software for Windows or Mac computers. Thanks so much.